Hey there, welcome to this episode, and today we are looking at the roll function, the roll effect, inside of the SP-404 MKII. Now, we can apply this effect on a sort of pad kind of basis, and if you're unfamiliar with roll, it is essentially like a stuttering, looping kind of effect that we can set to a specific time division, and I'll show you how we do that in a second. But we can apply this effect on like a pad basis. Now, I've got an example here, which is like a full loop with drums and some melodics all in one kind of little loop. But let's say here we had like a kick drum, a hi-hat, a snare, maybe our melodics are separate. I can apply that roll effect to any single individual pad element simply by making sure that is the pad I've pressed before I set roll off. But for this example here, I'm going to be using this kind of like full loop that's going to be looping around. Now, to set the time division, we do shift here and then press roll, and as we keep tapping it, you can see I'm changing the time division, and we have the usual things that you have here, 1/4 notes, half notes, and 1/16, etc. So we can change the division and get a slightly different effect each time. Now, I'm going to demonstrate that, but before I do, I want to talk about the triggering, because actually that's really interesting with this. Interesting or annoying might be the way you might look at it. So for me, I have a version of this set up on like my machine where I have a very similar like roll effect. And how it works is that when I press the roll button, or the button I'm using to create the effect, it starts triggering as soon as I press the button. Now, with the SP-404 MKII, what happens is it triggers the effect when you release the button instead. So when I first started playing with this, my timing was completely off. I was like, why isn't this working? I'm terrible at like using this. But actually what it is, it's because it triggers as you release the button. So with my machine, let's say you want to trigger the effect as a snare comes around in your loop. I would wait for the snare, and of course, as that snare hits, my timing, I hit the button, it triggers the effect, and the snare rolls, and that's great. With this, you kind of have to press this before the snare comes in, and then release the button as the snare is playing. Then that effect is going to kick in, and then you've got to kind of tap it again to make it stop. It's not very intuitive, and unfortunately, I went through the settings menu. I can't see anything to change the way that you trigger that, so hopefully that comes as an update later on. But just be aware of that. If you've just got one of these, and you're trying to roll your snares or whatever it is you're doing, and you feel like your timing is terrible or you can't get it right, it's because of this. It's because you need to press it before and then release to trigger the effect and then kind of stop it. As I said, not the best, but I'll demonstrate it now by playing a loop. What I want to do is just quickly mute my microphone so that as I'm playing this loop, you're not getting all the noise coming through the mic. So that was a little demonstration of it. As you can see, my timing's not great with it. Even when I understand the function of that roll button, I struggle with getting the right effect out of it. But bear in mind that it's there. I'm pretty sure you can automate that, and we'll get into some of the motion recording and other things that you can do later on in another episode. But that is essentially the roll function. We can use DJ Effect Looper and I think do things in a slightly more organic way, but that's kind of the function that we've got at the moment. So hope you've enjoyed it, hope you've learned something, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.